Okay, so in the last video we got our application up and running on Heroku, but I realized I actually forgot to do something with Foreman, which is, or Foreman, which is the gem that runs our proc file. And if you just normally run, clear this out, if you just normally do Foreman start, it will look for this proc file and run it. But this is actually meant for Heroku. In this case, this is like stuff that we want to do on a production server, which is why we have this procfile.dev file, and this is what we actually want to do locally. So I'm just going to go ahead and use what Chris Oliver made. So I'm going to take this .foreman file, clear that out, and here we go. So I'm going to take this, place it in there, add it, and commit this. And if I clear this out and run Foreman start, make that a little bit bigger. It looks like Foreman is working. Let's just triple check. Localhost 5000. Okay, everything's working. So I'm going to close this out. I'm going to push this up to master. And our CI is going to take care of this before it pushes it up to Heroku. The next thing I want to do is just get some development dependencies installed. So these are just going to help us during development, not production. And before I go any further, I actually want to make a new branch for this. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to create this new branch. Then locally I'm going to run git fetch, and we get our new branches here. So git checkout, development dependencies, git branch, just to make sure that we're on the correct branch. So for now, the two gems I want to install are strong migrations and bullet. Strong migrations just catches an unsafe migration in development. And what that means is, let's say we create a database table for blog posts and it has a column for a title and a column for a body, and then later on we remove the title column. That's a destructive migration and potentially unsafe, because it's going to mean we're removing actual data from the database. So when we're running like the Rails generate migration command, or actually Rails db migrate, if we were to run that migration, strong migrations would actually raise some type of exception in our console and prohibit the migration from running. And it would give us an alternative way to handle something like removing a database column, for example. So there's two ways to add a gem. I'll show both actually. So one is just, I like to go to Ruby Gems. This is where all of the gems are actually hosted, similar to like NPM. That's where all like node packages are hosted. So Ruby Gems is the same concept. If you go over to the gem file, input, you can just copy that, and then within our gem file, I'll just add it to the bottom. I'm going to add that and then run bundle install. And then it's always important to go to the documentation, because every gem is different, so you might have to do more than just run bundle install to get it going. And in fact, that's the case here. So we just ran bundle install. Now let's just run this command. Okay, so that command finished. It just made this file right here. And we can see down here, this is how the gem works. So like if you were to run Rails db migrate and there was a potentially dangerous migration that was going to be run, it would stop that migration from running and print out a message, something like this. The next thing I want to add is bullet. Bullet just helps detect any n+1 queries, and an n+1 query is, I'm probably not going to do a good job of explaining it, but it's an inefficient query. So it only really happens when you're loading, when you're querying for a record that's also associated with something else, and then you're trying to query for something within that association. By using eager loading, you can reduce the queries. So instead of making 11 queries in this particular example, you'll make 2, which is much more efficient. So this gem doesn't actually, it's not going to solve your problems for you. It's just going to tell you when there's an inefficient query. It'll give you a recommended solution, but it's actually up to you to implement that solution. So I'm going to install Bullet, but I'm going to install it using bundle add, which is just another way to install a gem. So I'll clear this out, bundle add, and I'm actually just going to copy and paste the word bullet so I don't spell it incorrectly. And group, in this case, we want it to be in development, and I'm going to add it into, well, I'll just add it into development here. We could actually add it into test, but we definitely don't want to add it in production because it would actually you can make Bullet do a lot of things. One thing you can make it do is have an actual pop-up message, and if there's an inefficient query, and we do not want that to be showing up on production. So I'm going to go ahead and run that. And this just basically adds, so it added Bullet down here to the gem file, and it then installed it. So we'll clear that out. Let's see if there's anything else we need to do. So we need to add this file, and this is the config for Bullet. So you can make it do a lot of things. For example, you could connect it to Sentry, and then anytime there's an n+1 query, you would get alerted via Sentry or Honey Badger, any of these things. Okay, so we're in the config environments development folder, or file I should say, and this is just how you configure your development environment for your Rails application. Let's look for this. I want to see if there's already an after initialize block already in here. Doesn't look like there is, so I'm just going to copy and paste this, and we're going to enable Bullet, and I'm going to enable alerts. And we're not going to actually see anything now when I do this, but that will just make an actual JavaScript alert message on the page if there's a n+1 query. It'll only happen during development. And I'm actually going to paste in the docs, the link to the docs for that, just in case someone else is working on this and they want to know more about this particular configuration. So next I want to, let's make a commit for all this. So git status, git add all, and git commit. Install and configure Bullet and strong migrations. Okay, so now that we took care of our development dependencies, let's go ahead and merge this into master. So I'll keep that the way it is, and this looks good, able to merge. I'm going to go ahead and create the pull request, which should trigger our continuous integration. So we'll wait for this to pass, but then I will, well actually, you know what, I guess I can still squash and merge it now. That's okay. I don't think it'll actually merge it until the CI passes. I'm going to go ahead and delete that branch. Okay, this is a good place to leave off.